YouTube land. Brenton here again. I was going to bring another story or two or something out of the archives. And this particular story happens to be a flying humanoid story. And someone named Dave, I guess I'll leave I'll use his name, I guess. Dave Anderson sent the story from Australia, and it's a very interesting story. And after we're done with this, we'll look at another story that it reminds me of. I had recently read a story, and a few people gave me some feedback, so they really liked it, and do some more of the story time. And so hang out with me and we'll look at some of the stories that I have in the archives, and this is one more of them, and I'll be bringing some more interesting stories and also more interviews coming up soon. I think I have one this evening. If that doesn't fall through, then there's a really interesting story that this lady has that I'm supposed to interview this afternoon. Okay, well, anyway, let's look at Dave Anderson's story. Hello, I'm Dave Anderson. I subscribed to your YouTube channel and finally decided to tell someone besides my wife what I saw one night over here in Perth, Western Australia. It was early 2013, I think, March, when I was out back of my house having a cigarette, as I don't smoke inside. And it was just after midnight, and I was leaning against the house wall, puffing along, when I thought I would straighten my back against the wall to better my posture, so to speak, when something flew over my roof and kept going straight over my backyard and over the neighbor's house behind me. This thing is best described as a 12 to 16 foot black man with curly shoulder-length hair and was dressed in an Arab sheet type thing. Now I know I wasn't seeing things, as his shadow went over the back fence. So basically he's saying that if it was a hallucination, it wouldn't have casted a shadow on the fence, so it was actually a solid object. And it went just above the tree height. He made no noise, and I didn't either, as it scared me real good. I wasn't on any hard drugs. I did smoke a puff or two of pot that evening, but I've done that for 31 years and never seen anything out of the ordinary at all. Also, I have stopped pot puffing for a while now. I wasn't drunk, and I never seen anything like it since. I started to check the paranormal out on YouTube after that, and I've not really found anything or anyone else that experienced the same. The closest thing I've seen that sort of looks like he did was a cover pic of multi-black heads on an Anunnaki video that's on YouTube. And I could go find that particular video if it helps. Just wondering if you'd heard anything similar. I live in Bassendean, Perth, Western Australia. If you go to Google Maps, we are a stone's throw from the river, and that part of the river, Success Hill, is sacred to the local Aboriginal people. So I'm not sure if there is a connection. I really wish I didn't see it, as it bothered me since. I'm a Christian too, Catholic, and believe what I saw wasn't good, but evil. I turned to Jesus more since. as I believe we're into the Revelation part of the Bible, and that wasn't a good sign. This thing was a giant, and I know what I saw. Anyway, keep up the good work, Brenton. Regards, Dave Anderson. And then he also said, my spelling isn't the best. On the last video, I said something about people spelling. But I did ask him back, say, was this black like a shadow person, or the skin color was black? Was it an ethnic black kind of person? And I asked him if it was laying down or leaning forward, or how it was flying, and did it have a sword or a staff or anything like that? And he basically said it didn't have a sword or a staff. It was a black person's skin color wise, and it looked like Michael Jackson in the face. This is what he said. And the sheet was just a Middle Eastern type garb, what you would kind of expect if you were, seeing an angel or something like that. Okay. Sounds to me like he's seen a principality over an area, and these angels can be quite large. Whether it was a good angel, a bad angel, I don't know. Wearing the white kind of, makes you think good. Now this angel might have been aboriginal looking to be a good angel over that area that watches over those people, maybe. I don't know. And of course it was flying. He didn't say it had any wings or anything like that, and it cast a shadow, so it looked like it was real and solid. So it was not a shadow being, black type something. The one thing I do notice is that he was let to see it, and he turned more to the Lord since then. So that could be good. Is this an indicator that more and more of this kind of stuff is being manifested on the earth, and more of these kind of beings are being seen, or just more people reporting it? Good question. It seems to be that more and more of this kind of stuff is being seen, not just being reported. And it reminds me of a little bit of giant humanoids that the cosmonauts, the Russian cosmonauts, saw. 12 to 16 foot is huge, and I imagine when it flew over, I imagine he was scared. He said it felt evil, so it may have been evil, but you can't necessarily go by that, because sometimes when angels would show up and they were good angels, they would say, fear not, because people were fearing, but it may have been evil too. I don't know, but it was so large, flying over, and so startling to him that he didn't make any sound. He dared not move, he basically said. I thought it was a very interesting story. So anyway, I think that it would be kind of cool to look at the Russian cosmonaut story that someone had sent that to me here recently. So sometimes these things work out really good. Maybe it's the Lord providing the proper stories and what have you. But let's look at the Russian cosmonaut story. Okay, this is labeled Soviet Cosmonauts See Angels. As reported in the New Year's edition of Paradise magazine, Most Significant Events of 1985, something occurred with the Soviet cosmonauts on the Salyut 7 that orbited the Earth in 1985. This is a rather hushed secret that has been leaked to the West. The 6 cosmonauts of 1985 saw celestial beings on the 155th day aboard their orbiting space station. This was first reported by cosmonaut Vladimir Salyulev, or however you pronounce that, and Oleg Atkov, and as well as Leonid Kazim. Now, I probably didn't pronounce their names right, and I'm pretty sure I didn't. But anyway, 3 cosmonauts saw these. This is what they said. What we saw was 7 giant figures in the form of humans, but with wings and mist-like halos, as in the classic depiction of angels. As the cosmonauts were performing medical experiments in Salyut 7, high above the Earth, a brilliant orange cloud enveloped them, blinding them temporarily, and when their eyes cleared, they saw the angels. The heavenly visitors, they said, followed them for about 10 minutes and vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. So that's very interesting. I mean, a group of beautiful, huge angels. Okay, however, 12 days later, cosmonauts, 3 more cosmonauts who had just joined the others on the space station also saw the beings. So these were other cosmonauts, I guess, that were on the way to the space station, and they had already seen these beings. And they said they were glowing, they reported. We were truly overwhelmed. There was a great orange light in it, and through it we could see figures of 7 angels. They were smiling as though they shared a glorious secret, but within a few minutes they were gone, and we never saw them again. Very interesting. So these really huge, tall, gigantic, angelic beings are sometimes reported around the world. Now, of course, these cosmonauts saw them up in space and they had wings. And the one that Dave Anderson saw didn't have wings, and it was on Earthborn. And that kind of makes me think it was a principality. What do you think? Interesting stories, huge humanoid angelic beings. Now, moving on from humanoids that appeared to be angels, and then other type of humanoids that not necessarily fly without some kind of means of transportation. But 2 stories were sent to me by Rachel Hubbard. And these are probably most likely going to be, at least the first ones are going to be what we would consider to be demonic in nature, that try to appear to be good, while the cosmonauts appeared to come across godly angels. The flying humanoid in Australia seemed to be some type of entity that we don't know. So, anyway, Rachel Hubbard. Dear Brenton, I had just had my first baby, and my partner and I sat down to watch a film. It was to be one heck of a shock. The film was Communion, and Christopher Walken. Hold on a second here, okay. The film was Communion and Christopher Walken, with Christopher Walken. I don't know how to put this in words, but the aliens that visited the man in the film came to me when I was a child. It really disturbed me for about a good year. I had trouble sleeping and felt like I was a bit helpless. What happened to me? I was in bed. I must have been about 6 or 7. I was awoken to massive, powerful, bright lights shining through my windows. I covered my eyes. It hurt so much. Then I opened my eyes, and in my bedroom, looking at me were 6 or 7 of these 3-foot black chunky beings, and I seem to remember what I now know as gray alien, not too much taller. They looked at me, and one seemed to mumble, and then they started to walk out of my room. I was stuck to the spot, terrified. I was relieved that they were going out of my room, but then horrified of the thought they were going to my younger sister's bedroom, and I wondered what they were going to do to her. I don't know what I don't know, but I have an idea they didn't want me or my sister because we were both born with dislocated hips. I did say to my sister, "Did you see the lights, the bright lights?" She said, "Yes." And my mother said, "What are you talking about? What rubbish?" I do remember that I felt fear a few times and thinking and praying the lights would go away. So this makes me think they came a few times, but I only remember seeing them once. And then she says, "The next visit, next email." So we'll go down to the next visit. That seems like the typical, like you would see in that movie Communion, the hooded type, weird gremlin looking, what would you, I don't know what you would call them, kind of demon looking, short little weird creatures with a gray alien involved. So we would most likely say that was a demonic visit. So here's the second visit. "Good day to you, Brenton. I hope you are well. My second visit. I'm not sure how much longer this was, but it was definitely after the first visit. Again, I was asleep in bed as a child and awoken to really blinding lights. I felt terrified again, but words cannot describe my fear. I don't know what came first, me looking at these 3 beings or them telepathically telling me that do not be afraid. I felt such an amazing sense of peace and love, and whilst these beings were very, very bright, I could look at them without my eyes hurting. I'm sending a quick sketch I drew a few weeks ago. They projected onto my bedroom wall what I can only describe as ancient hieroglyphs. These went up like the credit roll after a film. I quite forgot about it for years and years, and it's only since my daughter is 20 I have really told her a few years ago. I didn't want people to think I was crazy. I have always been a very sensitive person, so I am wary of who I tell. My parents wasn't religious as I was growing up, but every night I prayed. I look back and I wonder if these beings were angels. I just don't know. But as I said beforehand, my sister and I were born with dislocated hips, mine not being diagnosed until I was 2 years old, so I had a lot of operations. I also wonder if these beings protected me from any other aliens visiting me because I have had my share of pain and emotional pain, maybe. So time goes by. I am walking well as a young adult, start a family, and I start to have dreams of different kinds. I've always had many, many dreams. It was the morning of 9/11, bearing in mind we are all around 6 more hours ahead. I don't know, maybe you could check. So she's saying she's like 6 hours ahead of my time or something. I am in bed, fast asleep, and I am awoken by the biggest, loudest alarm blaring out like I've never heard in my life. I could smell the thick stench of smoke, and I jumped out of bed, and I was shaking terribly, my whole body. I was confused. I ran downstairs to check my cooker and fire, and there was nothing. My smoke alarms was doing nothing too. I go back to bed, and it took me ages to relax. Then I had a terrible dream. I was in a church, and hundreds of souls were flying past me, crying. It was scary. So she's saying that when 9/11 happened, she dreamed about this smoke in the house, and there was nothing going on in the house. And then she went back to bed, and she dreamed she was in a church, and there was a bunch of souls going by, crying. It was scary. That's interesting. Did she dream and maybe go into the spirit realm? I think sometimes dreams are real, and we're in the spirit realm experiencing things and sorting things out and what have you. So sometimes when we have a dream, it's not that it's all inside of our head, but we are experiencing something in the spirit realm. And what makes me kind of think that sometimes is that one night I went to sleep, and I got up and I went to the kitchen, and I was trying to turn the light on. But as I was trying to flick the switch, my hand was going through the switch, and I couldn't move the switch. It was like I didn't have my body with me, and felt kind of like a dream, you know. So I realized it's like I don't have my body. So I turned around, I started walking back towards the bedroom, and then all of a sudden I woke up. And I often wonder if I had somehow kind of, accidentally just came out of my body and walked into the kitchen and was trying to turn the light on like I normally would walk into the kitchen, get something to drink, and, go back to bed. But didn't have my body that night, so, I couldn't turn the light on. So maybe she had a spiritual experience in this dream or twilight area, so to speak, and she actually experienced all these souls, flying by that had perished in the 9/11 event. I don't know. Very interesting stories. Hieroglyphics on the wall. That's very interesting. And what makes me kind of think that there's something to that too is that I'd had an experience one time while praying, and I don't know if it was a good experience or if it was an attack on me or something. But I was praying, and I all of a sudden I just seen this clear as a bell vision of a bowl sitting on this stand. It was a stand that was like maybe 3 feet tall, and there was like a big, maybe brass hammered out type bowl sitting on it on this stand, and there was behind it was a wall with ancient hieroglyphics, and I remember seeing one symbol that was like a bird. Now I know in Egyptian hieroglyphics there's lots of different bird symbols, but I remember a bird one being in there, so I didn't ever know what to think about that. It kind of scared me, so I was like, I popped out of praying, and I didn't know what to think, and I just kind of went on about my business and kind of let it go. Anyway, I don't know. Humanoid creatures appear in all different forms. It looks like Australian one there, boom, a huge being flying over. I think that would scare me if I saw a 12 to 16 foot tall humanoid fly over. I think I would be quiet too and let it go. And I don't know what that is, so I'm gonna be real quiet and let that thing pass over. And cosmonauts having experience with these huge angels. I don't know if they were scared or not, but it looks kind of like those were, angels of God kind of thing, maybe, in the second heaven or something, or first heaven. I'm not sure how that works. You have the sky, the atmosphere would be the first heaven. I know that a lot of entities are in that first heaven area, but when you get into the outer space region, if that's the second heaven, and then the third heaven is where God's at, um, I don't know for sure how that would be defined, but all humanoid creatures. So let me know what you all think. Subscribe, share, comment, like these videos. That really helps me out. I have an interview later, like I said, that I think will be a very, very interesting story. I don't want to really give away, but I've not ever heard a story like this one before. And then I have another story I might go ahead and record here in a little while that's really interesting too. Kind of relates to some stuff I've done recently. But please share, like, and comment, and sharing these videos would really help me out. Keep the numbers up so I can keep this channel going. If anybody wants to contribute, go to Facebook, Mysteries to Search. You can click the little Facebook button on my channel art if you go to my channel, or go to About, and there's a list of stuff there. Click the Facebook, and it'll take you to my Facebook, Mysteries to Search page, and then there's a donate button there. That would really help me out. I need some people to contribute to help me out past these maybe next 6 months. I'm not sure, until the channel gets to where it helps support itself better. This is what I do for a living now. It has become a very time-consuming thing, tracking down stories and trying to get interviews and coming up with the art, and there's so many different things that it takes to do these channels. So contributions really help. So if you can, please do. And God bless you. I would suggest that anytime anyone has any encounters with humanoid type beings, pray. Always try the spirits. I wouldn't trust none. I think God's angels will let you know they're doing God's bidding. If they're going to interact with you, I believe that they would let you know that they're there for a specific purpose on God's behalf. The Bible talks about those angels who excel in strength and do God's bidding. So I do believe that angels of God let you know. They might come and protect you from some scenario at some point, and you'll just kind of know, hey, that was protecting me, and that, most likely would be a good angel. But these entities are very, very deceptive, so I would never go by how I feel. So a lot of people talk about, oh, I felt peace and love, but even the bad types of alien creatures can project feelings into your flesh like that, and help your flesh to maybe secrete different chemicals that would make you have euphoric feelings and things like that. I know that they have the knowledge to do such things, and they are thousands of years old, and they do know a lot when it comes to science, and many of these beings have specific purposes that they're assigned for, and so deception is one of the main things that they have at their discretion to try and lead us astray. Apostle Paul talked about that many people would depart from the faith in latter times, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. So these doctrines or teachings, you can interchange those words, teachings and doctrines, means same thing. These teachings don't even come from men; they come from devils. So demonic entities that come up with plans and try to push some kind of belief system that makes you depart from the faith. He said many people would depart from the faith giving heed to seducing spirits. So if you're giving heed to a seducing spirit, you got to be giving heed to something thing that the Spirit's doing, and that could be trying to promote aliens as being from far off galaxies and things like that, which they're not. They're interdimensional. They are alien because all angelic beings are not of this earth, which would technically make them extraterrestrial in a technical sense. So they are all extraterrestrial. And then there's some that are earthbound, but that's not necessarily meaning that they weren't extraterrestrial. And then, of course, the Nephilim that might have been earthborn, killed in the flood and things like that, they are earthbound. And they roam the earth, but those type are typically disembodied unless they still have their body. Some of them escaped underground. There's many different stories about those kind of things, where things that went into the earth to escape the flood. And I believe that some of those creatures, beings that lived so long and they escaped the rays of the sun and after the canopy was gone, that they try to remain in a position to where they aren't degrading from the sunlight, which I believe messes with our genes, and makes us age quicker over time. It's degraded us to where we have shorter and shorter lifespans. And then with medicine of the modern day, we are able to prolong that a little bit more now. But people used to live before the flood when there was a canopy over the earth and oxygen levels were higher, air pressure was higher, and lab experiments when people tried to grow organisms, whether it be fish or whatever, they tried to grow things in a compressed, oxygenated, higher oxygen level and what have you, environment. They grow bigger and they live longer. And we know the oxygen level was higher by amber. When you have a piece of amber, you have a bubble in that amber. You can sample that bubble and see what the makeup of the air was pre-flood. So anyway, I'll see y'all on the next video, and God bless. Bye-bye.